Irvin Edward Gilman was born on March 28, 1926, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the first of three children born to Jewish immigrants, Philip and Ray Gilman. In the mid-1920s, Philip and Ray opened a grocery store at 924 South 3rd Street, where Irvin, his brother Ash, and their sister Gladys were raised in an upstairs apartment. Growing up, Irvin loved big band music. His grandmother paid for music lessons, and his first gig came in early 1944, when he was hired to play with the Troc Theatre Burlesque House Orchestra at the age of 17. His time at the Troc Theatre was short, however, because on March 27, 1944, Irvin joined the United States Navy. He was sent to a naval training station in Bainbridge, Maryland, where his talents were recognized, and just a few months later, musician second-class Irvin Gilman was bound for the USS Wichita, a Baltimore-class cruiser that was acting as a screen for Fast Carrier Task Group 38 in the Pacific. Following account of Irvin's military service largely consists of his diary, which was written on the back of what he calls dope sheets, a slang term for the orders of the day, which could best be described as part newsletter and part daily itinerary, a way to keep the crew up to date on current events both on and off the ship. I have had it on my mind for quite some time now, and I've come to the conclusion that I should keep a few memories of my adventures in Uncle Sam's Navy. As far as I can remember, we left the U.S. from San Diego the 21st of July on the Kenneth Whitey, a seaplane tender. I was quite seasick the first few days out, but I soon got over it and all was well until we reached Pearl Harbor. The beauty of the Hawaiian Islands is quite vivid in my mind, for I can still see the panorama of the mountains silhouetted against the colorful sky of the tropics. Our stay in Hawaii only lasted a few days, unfortunately, for we were soon put aboard another ship. It was the Aldebaran, a supply ship, and we were heading for the Marshall Islands for the USS Wichita, which we found was to be our home for our sea duty. The trip on the Aldebaran was a very pleasant one, and we were very well treated while on her. Finally, we were told to get ready to leave the Aldebaran and go to our ship, the Wichita. We were in the Marshalls, and the Witch had just returned from being out at sea. We went by whaleboat, and it was quite a ride, but we finally got to our ship. I must say that we've been very well treated, and the crew are a bunch of fine fellows, all except for 2 days ago when we were initiated as shellbacks for crossing the equator. We took a good beating, but it was all in fun, from the old shellbacks in order to become a trusty serf of King Neptune ourselves. It is something that I don't think I'll forget for quite a long while. One item of interest I forgot to mention was that we had a day of liberty in the Solomon Islands, on the Isle of Enewetak. It was not too pleasant because of the heat, but it was an experience at any rate. Friday, September 1st, 1944. As can be seen, I am writing 6 days after this dope sheet was printed. Why I took so long I can't say, but anyhow, that's what I'm doing. As I recall it now, the initiation and everything else I went through to become a trusty shellback was one big joke. But then I suppose it's all in fun, and can be compared with the dizzy goings-on of a frat when they are initiating a new member. Anyway, it was through the will of God and my enlistment that I became a shellback, and neither I nor anyone else can change it. Sunday, September 3rd, 1944. There usually isn't much one can say about a Sunday, except that he rested, and I'm not the exception to the rule. Since I have considerable space on this page, I might as well add that we had a day of liberty on Enewetak. While there, Smitty and I swam out to an old sunken Jap ship, and got us some Jap shells as souvenirs. We also were given 4 cans of beer, 2 of which I sold for $1 apiece and 2 sandwiches. It was an interesting experience to see what a romantic tropical isle is like. Monday, September 4th, 1944. Monday is the average Blue Monday, and I don't think this one was any different. However, one thing I forgot to mention about my initiation was that my hair was so badly cut up that I was forced to get a baldy. I must say I have been complimented about it quite often, especially by the inimitable Mr. Whitney. Quite a fellow, Mr. Whitney. Tuesday, September 5th, 1944. Nothing important yesterday except that I heard we would have an early general quarters, so I slept in my bunk. It was most uncomfortable, and I really had a fine sweat. The general quarters wasn't too bad, since it only lasted a half hour, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Wednesday, September 6th, 1944. Well, I finally caught up to myself, and I hope I stay caught up. Just returned from the Noon Square concert and saw the planes taking off for the bombardment of Palau. I felt a little chilled when Drudel remarked that some probably won't come back. And he was right. It also was a little shocking to see one plane crash while trying to land with the wheel shot off. The day, however, ended in its usual way with a dance concert and Pop, Clough, and I trying to sleep up on deck, with the noise, soot, and noise again all around us. We didn't sleep too well either. I suppose we'll just have to become accustomed to disturbances while we try to sleep. Thursday, September 7th, 1944. Well, I seem to be keeping up with my writing, and I hope to keep it up. Today ended rather pleasantly. The concerts are getting to be more enjoyable every day. The antics that Pop and Clough pull off are really terrific. Today on 1 o'clock jump during my chorus of the Hoochie Coochie dance, both of them got up and really came on like mad. I was almost frantic, and was good for only the first and last 2 bars of my chorus. Kicks almighty! Roy, it seems, is still Navy. Need I say more? Even Raider and Boards cracked down tonight and laughed so they couldn't play. I also wrote home today a lovely 7-page letter and sent V-mails to Aunt Bee and to Moisha. I intend to write as much as I can tonight. Cheerio, and I'll see you on the morrow. And oh yes, Mr. Whitney is a scream with his new high forehead. It really becomes him. Saturday, September 9th, 1944. Couldn't find a dope sheet today. Too many fellows are starting to save them. This morning we had general quarters for a few hours. It was the first one we had that was a little long. All during it, the chaplain told us just what there was in the way of news. It was very interesting, and he told us just what was going on. We just finished playing a square concert, and that went rather well. These concerts are helping me out very much on my clarinet, and that in turn helps out my sax. Oh yes, Drudel and I were playing duets and also noodling today in the lunchroom. Well, if anything else happens during the general quarters soon to be held, I will write it in tomorrow. Sunday, September 10th, 1944. Well, I got this dope sheet due to the generosity of Mr. Gager. He put 2 of them under Pop's mattress this morning, and Pop slipped me one. A fine fellow, Mr. Gager. Had general quarters this morning and ate dinner on the station. Consisted of cheese sandwich, coffee, and a lousy chocolate bar. Also felt sick due to the chocolate, I believe. Am better now, probably because of the occupying of my mind on the records I dug with Sandy, Johnson, and Brennan. Fine stuff, too. The most important thing today was the first sight of the Philippine Islands. I say first because I doubt it will be my last. The part of the islands we saw was Mindanao. All that could be seen was the tops of the mountains protruding hazily in the distance. Also had quite a chat with George before I retired. Quite a character, George Koob. Forgot to mention the letter I got yesterday from Ash and a card from Jack. It was fine finally hearing from home. My joy was boundless and my sentiments overflowing. Monday, September 11th, 1944. Well, I just got this dope sheet due to the thoughtfulness of Mr. Gager. If not for him, I would have gone without one again. They're getting very hard to get due to a lot of fellows saving them. The concert tonight was terrific. Quarter put a condom on the end of Pop's clary, and everything went mad. Pop didn't realize what it was until he tried to play his chorus of Rhapsody in Blue. Need I say more? Put in a little clary and sax practice today with Drudel helping out. That's about all for today. I'll try to write some mail now. Oh yes, I bought a pen today and a sewing kit, and quite a bit of stuff. Tuesday, September 12th, 1944. The best thing today that occurred was the mail call. I got 3 V-mails, which were actually 1 letter 3 pages long, from my dear brother Ash. It was a fine letter, and I was very glad to get it. Another incident yesterday was the rescuing of an American pilot who had crashed in the ocean. The fellows told me he had a grin a mile wide on his face when he came aboard. Today, September 13th, 1944, I saw them put the pilot on a destroyer, and he was probably being taken back to his ship. We played a little jazz concert last night before we went on general quarters. We also had some fun singing and messing around in general. It was the Reed section, namely me, Klofta, Drudel, and Pop. We really got our kicks. Pop, of course, sang his inimitable version of Darktown. Wednesday, September 13th, 1944. Couldn't find a dope sheet today. However, everything went well. This morning we were on general quarters again. I put in a good 2 hours practicing this afternoon, even though I did waste the morning by sleeping. 2 planes crashed this afternoon, and I saw them picked up by our destroyers when their smoke flares were sighted. Also started to read Citizen Tom Paine. Should be a fine book. Ended the day with the Square concert. What will happen tonight will be told tomorrow if it merits telling. Thursday, September 14th, 1944. Well, I'm a day behind, but it's due to the better-than-usual session we had last night. We had Corey and his pals on guitars, Johnson on trumpet, and Drudel and myself on tenors. Also, I can't leave out Horseshit Dean on the skins. The beat was pretty good for a change. Also, the concert was sad due to Roy's messing up The Angels Came Through. It all ended up okay, though, due to the concert, as I said before. This morning, dear diary, I had the watch. Correction, it was the afternoon. I practiced some clary and then had a dance rehearsal with the boys. The watch was okay. I tried to get a dope sheet for today, but couldn't. However, I did get one of the messages concerning MacArthur. Should be interesting in my later years. Also, the old boy Joy commanded Roy on the playing of the boys. That takes it in, I'm sure. The concert was pretty good. Angels really came through, and so did a lot of other stuff. Clawful Pop and I finished the night off by having a ball up on the main floor. We did a shrewd imitation of the Navigator and also sang some songs. I presume this night will conclude just like the preceding ones. If anything happens otherwise, you'll hear about it. Monday, September 18th, 1944. Well, I'm back on the beam again. Forgot to mention the swell letter I received from Adele. Really out of this world. Also, more today from Ash. Those darn V-mails. I don't care a bit for them. Popular consensus of opinion currently on V-mail is it stinks. So say the sailors and yours truly. Put in a good morning's practice. Went over Cavallini in good style. Played the afternoon concert and knocked myself out. After that, the ever-so-lovely watch, during which I straightened out my Jewish letter difficulties with Chester Bagel. After supper, there was some indirect anti-Semitic remarks passed by a few of the boys. I felt pretty brought down about it, and I guess after they said it, they realized it and were sorry. Alright, so I'll forget about it, but it still hurts. I played a fair concert tonight. The band was as usual. We'll try to write some letters tonight. Wednesday, September 20th, 1944. I can't remember a thing. However, I do recall a little incident. I am blank myself. Tried to think of a word I wanted to use. Left it blank because I might recall it again. Moisha tried to help me out, but he couldn't think of the word either. I happened to be sitting at the main floor reading when along comes Bulldog Hunter. A hell of a commander. About 2 yards from me was a cigarette butt and a feather. Well, you know Hunter. Do you want to sit in dirt? Do you like dirt? And I don't smoke or throw dirt around. Pick up that cigarette button. What's this? A feather? How did that get here? Well, never mind that. Throw 'em both in the GI can. Yes, sir. So I did, and I felt pretty lousy towards Hunter and his big nose and nauseating pipe. After all, he could have used kinder words. But then what does a sailor know of kindness? Well, I am now writing of Thursday the 21st of September, 1944. We had general quarters all day today, and it was pretty bad. We had our meals served on station, and they were okay. Also, I took out the clary and kept myself and the boys occupied by playing songs for them. I'm coming along on the stick. No action today, and I didn't realize that on the next day I would have my first taste of Jap Zeros. I'm too dramatic, but it's commercial. Who wants to be commercial? Okay, I'm sorry. Commercialism, bah. Friday, September 22nd, 1944. I am writing, and I'm sorry to repeat this phrase so often, of Friday, 23rd September, 1944. General quarters all day, during which I played some on clary. Most important thing of the day was the first sight of the Jap Zero. It's a funny thing how the radar kept telling us bogeys 50 and 60 miles away, but when they get on top of us, no one knows about it. It really happened fast. Everyone suddenly began moving about, some looking upward. There, right above us towards the stern, were 2 Zeros, or Zeeks. I saw them, and before I could do anything, the guns were blasting away. Well, I kept going from the port of the ship to the starboard side, intently watching the movement of the planes. I stood on the starboard side for a while, watching amazed as Zeke dived on a carrier. It seemed as though the plane was covered with bullets and should have been shot down, but somehow it was missed. It circled around and dived again. Once more the bullets surrounded it, and once more the Jap got through okay. Fortunately, it dropped no bombs. But as I've learned later, 2 men were killed and 6 were injured as a result of the strafing. It's horrible, but it's war. As I was watching, Pop came over from the port side and shouted to be heard. "Gil, they're strafing." Well, I didn't know who he meant, so I said, "So what?" and kept watching the Japs go about their bloody business. I forgot to mention that most of our planes were out bombing Manila. That's why we had so few planes left in the air when the Zeros came out. I don't think we lost any planes in the shuffle, though. The chaplain then announced there was a dogfight going on the port side quarterdeck. Going around, I saw off in the distance 2 planes, 1 American and 1 Jap. According to the fellows, the Jap so outmaneuvered the American that it was pitiful. But the Jap finally took a powder. Then I learned from Pop and Corey that we were strafed, and that we shot down the plane. It had released a bomb, but we were missed, for both bomb and plane crashed into the water. I, unluckily, didn't see it crash because I was so intent on the carrier. There was another plane shot down, which we were credited with, but I didn't see anything of it. It was strange, though, and surprising that I didn't feel a bit scared, only excited and surprised at how fast it all happened, and how soon it was over, only a half hour. The Admiral commended the gun crews for doing a good job today, even though Clough forgot to tell him of the turn of the ship, and his lovely fruit salad went sliding across the deck. I think all was forgiven, though. Sunday, September 24th, 1944. Fell off again. Sorry, but it was done because of a good thing. I should say quite a few good things. Namely clarinet practicing and some sessions with Drudel, the 2 guitars, John, Kramer, and yours truly. Continued in next week's Chapter 10. Does he escape? Does he come out alive? Eat Wheaties, the breakfast of Drudels. Oh, nuts. The day is Wednesday, September 27th, in the year of our Lord 1944. Or something like that, the old saying goes. But, there's always a but. The subject is supposed to be of yesterday, the 26th. And for yesterday there was the usual bull from Hare and Bortz, the usual 2 concerts for the day, the usual type of jam session, and the usual night of sleep. Complete with a bucket of sweat when you awaken in the morning to the tune of the bugler's horn and the bellowing of the local PA. Somewhat poetic, eh, what? I'll try to continue on the next page. Wednesday, September 27th, 1944. Here I sit in silent bliss, listening to the scintillating gliss of Drudel's fine tenoring. Deep Purple is the tune, and Drew carries on like mad. He really knocks out the sailors, which is an accomplishment that I don't seem to do. Today I put in 2 very good practice sessions, says he. The morning on clarion and the afternoon on sax. The evening concert featured Growling Sailor by Bugs Klotz, who just acquired the knack. Now I'm in the lunchroom writing. Drudel is noodling around with his remade mouthpiece and sounds fine. I really learned a lot from Drew, I think. He's a fine guy. I'm going to now try to write home, if I can without being interrupted. See you tomorrow if everything works out. So long, Di. Take it easy. Thursday, September 28th, 1944. One day late, but I have my excuse. Movies. And a fine picture, too. Tampico. A war picture. But all right. Also got my first look at the Admiralties. Looks like a fair place. Jungles and all. Complete with foxholes and all the trimmings, I guess. Anyway, I'll find out better when I get liberty in the next day or so. That's all I can recall on Friday the 29th in the year 1944. I went to bed on deck but got rained out about 4 in the morning as usual. Didn't get wet though because I bounced right up quick-like and dashed downstairs to the comfort of my bunk. Comparable comfort, that is. Both are lousy to be sure. Friday, September 29th, 1944. On time! An average day except for the evening. A special show, all Navy, with Commander Eddie Peabody and company. A really fine aggregation of 6 men and the leader. Fine 4-piece band consisting of bass, guitar, accordion, banjo, and trumpet. The later very terrific, and all of them a fine bunch of guys and great showmen. That's what counts most, it seems, showmanship. And it can't be underestimated. Anyway, we're now gathered in the band room having a session et la boule. Letting you know if anything happens, Di. September 30th, 1944. Caught up, and I hope to remain so, and I will, Di, if it's feasible. Played colors this morning and a few marches. Then Liberty on the Admiralties. It was okay, except for the awful rainstorm we had. However, we didn't let it bother us because we had a fine swim. Also, we were given 2 cans of beer and sandwiches. Ah, what luxuries a sailor has. South Sea Islands, lovely maidens, lovely weather, and lovely... Ah, nuts, what a life. Well, we were there for a few hours, and I brought back a shell as a souvenir. Fine for the mantelpiece or the doodad shelf. We played a concert under the direction of Dr. Brown. Boy's been ashore and just returned with a load on. He sure knocks himself out and is really mad. That's about all for now, Di. Take it easy and see you later. Sunday, October 1st, 1944. One day late, not only that, I feel terrible. Believe it or not, I have a terrific hangover. It all came about like this. Sunday night, Pop, Droodle, and I were watching the movies when along comes Klofta with the news that we were playing at the Officers' Club. Well, we all got our horns, etc., piled into the Admiral's barge with Mr. Wagner, and off we went to the club. We were greeted with cheers, and they were very generous with their applause throughout the night, which was fine. On top of that, we were practically soaked with beer and the occasional drinks which some of the boys brought over. The result was that we all got feeling high and were really having a ball, as Charlie would say. Wonder where he is now. We took some choruses and had a fine time in general. Especially the return trip with Messrs. Wagner and Stretch. They really came on solid, shooting the breeze like mad. When we did get to the ship and finally got to bed, it was not without a few of the boys throwing up a few times, which included myself as well. So I feel beat now, but I'd do it again any time. Monday, October 2nd, 1944. Well, I've just come off watch, and I'm now in the flag office digging long-haired records. Fine stuff. Today's been interesting, aside from feeling sick this morning and everything. I can safely and with some rationalism say that I feel pretty good now. We played a very sad colors this morning, and then loafed for the rest of the day until the evening concert, in the course of which we rattled off the magnanimous sum of 3 numbers. And then the concert was called on account of darkness, Di. That's about all there is to say for today. I'm now going to write to Jack and anyone else I have the time. Cheerio. P.S. I also wrote to Buddy. Wednesday, October 4th, 1944. Writing of October 4th, so let me see. That makes me 3 days late. Sorry, Di. It was due mostly to the awful rocking and rolling of this boat. The weather's really been terrible. The waves mountainous, and the forecastle wind and water swept almost continually. The result? I've been feeling quite seasick, and haven't gotten over it as yet. Friday, October 6th, 1944. Well, I'm 1 day late. Not too bad considering the way I've been feeling. No band concert today, as yesterday, due to the roughness of the sea. It seems according to the grapevine that we've been following a storm and have been gradually creeping up on it, so to speak. Anyway, the weather's still terrible and I still feel the same. Wonder how everyone is at home. Bless them all. Saturday, October 7th, 1944. And here I am once again caught up. I just finished having a fine bull session with Jake Murdoch. Quite a boy, yes quite. Damn this rough weather. A body can hardly write. It is now only 7:30 in the evening and I'm going to write home a few letters. I'm in the radio room now, as I have been for the last few nights, where I finished reading Thorne Smith's Stray Lamb and Turnabout in as many days. 2 good stories in the usual racy, refreshing style which is so typical of only Mr. Smith. That's all for tonight, Di. Oh yes, Edwin John Drew is beside me also riding home. Monday, October 9th, 1944. Today began with my going down to sickbay to see about the headaches I've been having. The treatment was 2 aspirin and a stay-hamine pill. I hope that's the right word. My headache hasn't improved, so I'll probably go down tomorrow unless we have general quarters. Finished off the day with a little session in the band room comprised of Chase, Kramer, and Dean on the drums. One at a time, of course. And yours truly on sax. Not bad for such an ensemble, and I might add the cruiser really comes on fine. Tuesday, October 10th, 1944. Well, we had general quarters this morning, and also had all 3 meals on station. During the afternoon, our ship picked up a plane which was on the water. It landed due to engine trouble, and I don't think anyone was injured. I played a little Clary and read Exit Laughing by Cobb. I'm a little disappointed with it so far, but I'll finish it anyway. Pop and Gager and I had a little fun messing around, and also had a little bull session with Moisha just now. That's all, folks. Thursday, October 12th, 1944. Nothing of importance or exciting happened until night, when we were attacked by Jap planes. As far as I know, none of our ships were damaged, but I think we shot down at least 12 Jap planes. The sky looked the same way it did when I used to see fireworks at Woodside Park. It was quite thrilling, all lit up like a Christmas tree, complete with on and off lights. Truly a spectacle for one who has never witnessed an air battle, namely yours truly, Di. Friday, October 13th, 1944. Writing of Friday the 13th. Supposed to be an unlucky day, but since 13 has always been the band's lucky number, I don't hold much stock to the old supposition. Not that I ever have. 2 things stand out vividly in my mind of this day. The first is of the Jap plane crew that was splashed by one of our planes. After a destroyer spent half a day pleading with them to come aboard, they finally consented to become prisoners of war. Not to mention being saved from a watery grave. I can't understand those Japs. The second is the sight of a Jap plane in flames flying through the air like a ball of fire and landing just in front of our carrier. Luckily, no damage was done except the burning of a little paint. We were lucky this day because we got out without a scratch. Sunday, October 15th, 1944. Writing of the 15th. I think it was this day that we were attacked by Japs, and the Canberra, a heavy cruiser, was hit by a torpedo. Unfortunately, it was helpless, and we were called upon to tow it until a tug came along to take over. Well, I can't quite express the anxiety and worriment we went through thinking what would happen if we were caught while towing. But thank God, nothing happened to stop us, and we turned it over to the tug. Monday, October 16th, 1944. 1 day late. I forgot to mention the cruiser Houston also receiving a fish, and having to be towed. Both were turned over to tugs. We didn't have any Jap raids, although the planes, our own, intercepted a lot of bogies and splashed many of them. The remaining bogies bagged ass, said the chaplain, much to the enjoyment of everyone on the ship. We are now playing decoy in the hope of luring out the Jap fleet. I don't think we'll keep it up much longer after we field tomorrow, if at all. I hope we get some mail at any rate. Wednesday, October 18th, 1944. Nothing exciting today. It was good to get back to eating in the mess hall, though, after all the time we ate at our stations. I started on arranging Talk of the Town. I've got a lot of screwy ideas in it, but I think it'll work out okay. Had a session tonight that was very sad. Need I say more? Also, today I got a lot of mail. It was some of my old mail, which I should have gotten back at the school, and even Elliot. Still, I always say, better late than not at all. I'm now very tired, so I'll go to bed, for the general quarters is in the morning. It's now 10:30 p.m. Formosa or Philippine time. Sunday, October 22nd, 1944. Played our 2 concerts today. The evening one was out of this world. I dressed up in my dungaree jacket and pegged my pants and really looked as of yore. The joint was really jumping on the old Wichita. I'm almost finished with the arranging part of my arrangement. I'll only have to copy it when I write out the bass part. I'm now going to hit the sack. Good night. August 16th, 1945. Dearest Mom, Dad, Ash, and Gladys. The last time I wrote, I apologized for being so late in writing, and also promised to send my next letter soon. Now I must apologize again for not answering promptly. My excuse is that the band has been very busy in the last 2 or 3 weeks, playing almost every day on a different ship or club, etc. I guess that's a feeble excuse, but it's all I have to offer, so it'll have to do. The bad result of my not writing is that letters have piled up from almost all of my correspondents, including Sarah, who wrote a while ago. Yes, I've got a job now, but I'll come through all right, and I hope. The past few days have really been full of surprises, the best of which was the conclusion of the war. Most of the fellows took it rather calmly, myself included, but some showed their feelings by shooting off guns, rockets, etc. Other than that, there is no great change in the life we lead today, from the life we led 3 months ago. The thing is, though, How will it be about 6 months? And or a year from today? That, my darlings, is the question. So how this will affect our coming home is not known. It may be sooner, we're not counting on it, or it may be around January, as I said before. Still, no matter when it is, it would be far better to return to a country living in peace than a country living in war. Musician second class Irvin Gilman ended his naval service playing with the Cruiser Division Band, and he sailed for home on board the USS San Francisco. Irvin returned to Philadelphia, where he married Eleanor Goldberg in 1948, and by 1950 they'd moved to Oberlin, Ohio, where Irvin was studying music at the Oberlin Conservatory on the GI Bill. He then went on to attend the Manhattan School of Music, where he studied with two of the greatest flutists of that era, John Woomer, principal flutist with the New York Philharmonic, and William Kincaid, principal flutist with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Irvin went on to have a celebrated career performing in solo and chamber recordings on Centaur and Albany Records, and orchestral and jazz recordings for Motown, RCA, Victor, and Mercury Records. He was the Albany Symphony Orchestra's principal flutist for 15 years, a member of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra for 12, and a professor of music at the University of Albany. He also co-founded Capitol Chambers Artists with his second wife, Mary Lou Sayeta, and was a member for over 40 years, performing at venues both big and small. Irvin loved to play. It was his passion, and he continued performing with Capitol Chamber Artists well into his 80s, with no plans to retire. On December 5th, 2013, at the age of 85, Irvin was walking down a flight of stairs in his home when he fell and fractured two of his vertebrae. I got to the last step, and for some reason I tumbled, he recalled. Luckily, his spinal cord was undamaged, but Irvin was in the hospital for weeks. I don't remember any of it because of the morphine, he said, and spent more weeks in a rehab facility. There was never any question that if he was physically able to play, he was going to play, Mary Lou said. I knew that, so I smuggled in his flute. He was required to wear a cumbersome neck brace that hurt his jaw when he played, but this didn't stop Irvin, and he was soon able to take it off for short periods of time. Irvin's recovery was nothing less than miraculous, and against all the odds, he was able to perform again less than 3 months after his fall.